Ladies and gentlemen, this is Nate Crespi, your host for today and forever, and welcome back to another episode of the Lawyers in the Making podcast, where it is my job to focus on the unique journeys to the law and law school of professionals in the legal field and law students. But let's talk about what we're doing today, because today we have another spectacular guest and a very special episode. He's a University of Leeds graduate and currently works as the founder of KC Partners, as the co-founder of the Legally Speaking Club, and as the co-founder of the Great Big Legal Offsite. He's held past positions as a recruitment director at Bramwith Consulting and as the recruitment consultant at SThree. Finally, he's the host of the top 1% ranked podcast show on the planet and the number one ranked law podcast on the planet, the Legally Speaking Podcast. Excited to have on the podcast today, Mr. Robert Hanna. Before getting into the episode today, a few minutes of ads now. For no ads in the middle, no ads at the end. To support this podcast, please be sure to check out all the sponsors below: Start LSAT, Rhetoric, and LisaBlaster.com. If these sponsors bring great interest to you, please check out the sponsor links below in the description. I love them, and I hope you love them as much as I do. And of course, be sure to check us out at lawyersinthemaking.substack.com. One word, lawyersinthemaking.substack.com. Start LSAT, founded by former guest and 21-year-old superstar Alden Spratt, and now an official sponsor of the Lawyers in the Making podcast. Start LSAT was built upon breaking down barriers, allowing anyone access to high-quality LSAT prep. After receiving a 180 perfect score on his LSAT, yes, you heard it, 180 perfect score, Alden began building Start LSAT. Start LSAT includes 51 video modules, 400 official LSAT questions, study tips and tricks, and the techniques that took Alden to achieve that 180 perfect score. All for the low price of $110. Yes, you heard that right, $110. But using code LITM10, you could get 10% off that 110 Start LSAT self-paced course. Additionally, by using code LITM100 at checkout, you also get $100 off Alden's upcoming 10-week course for the January LSAT. This 10-week course includes one-on-one tutoring, live classes, the Start LSAT self-paced course with 50-plus modules, weekly classes, access to Law Hub Advantage, and a direct line to the superstar himself, Alden. Alden focuses on building the muscles of your LSAT skills, training them, and making you unstoppable. Check out Start LSAT in the podcast description below at startlsat.com, where you can find offers for the course and one-on-one tutoring. Be sure to use code LITM100 at checkout. That is LITM100 for $100 off the January LSAT 10-week course. And be sure to use LITM10 for 10% off the Start LSAT self-paced course. That is LITM100 and LITM10. Now it's time to talk about one of the sponsors of this podcast, Rhetoric. Rhetoric is a legal tech company that leverages AI to help litigators tailor their arguments to be more persuasive by understanding judges' preferences and tendencies based on their actual filings. A recent study published in Harvard Business Review shows that mirroring a judge's language preferences can increase your odds of success in litigation by 20% or more, and that is exactly what Rhetoric does for you. Back on episode 25, I had the privilege of having Luke Yangling, a good friend of mine and a former guest of the podcast. And from there, Rhetoric thus became a sponsor of the podcast. But now, Rhetoric has some new products to offer. With their brand new product, Cicero, students can replicate the experience of responding to a judge's question in court or the demands of cold calls. This product helps develop and refine verbal communication skills through tailored feedback on the quality of the student's presentation, providing endless practice opportunities. Using Debrief, students can hone their persuasive legal writing using the same tools that major law firms across the United States leveraged to perform better than opposing counsel. Students can learn to write with flair and command of writers at the top firms using debriefs, analytics, and drafting tools. Not only can rhetoric upgrade and enhance your writing skills, but can now also help law students excel in the classroom and the courtroom while alleviating the stress of cold calls and performance demands. If you're interested in a demo, let them know you heard it here first, here from Nate. And to support this podcast, check out Rhetoric in the description below at userhetoric.com. One word, userhetoric.com.
Law students, are you feeling overwhelmed, stressed, or short on time in law school? Maybe you just want someone to show you a step-by-step framework to master the topics you're learning in your classes. I know the pressure you're under, and I've got the perfect solution for you. My course, The Law School Operating System, is proven to help you conquer law school with confidence and ease.
Created by Lisa Blasser, a former guest on the podcast and founder of the Law School Success Institute, this course breaks down every subject into manageable main topics that you run through a comprehensive study system to thoroughly prepare you for class and final exams. No more feeling like you need to know everything all at once in the beginning.
But that's not all, Nate. The Law School Operating System also teaches you how to schedule your studying and time effectively. For every topic, you'll know which study step you're on and when you'll complete it every week of your semester. No more mad dash cram sessions, more time with your loved ones. And with my system, you'll walk into your exams knowing you've given 100% of yourself, that there's nothing more you could have done to succeed, and there's no better confidence than that.
Lisa breaks it down like this: one class, one list of main topics, and one system to master each topic. With recorded and live sessions for students available on her website and partnerships with law schools nationwide, the Law School Operating System is here to help you thrive from day one to the final exam. Ready to take control of your law school journey and operate at your full potential in law school? Visit www.lisablasser.com today and enroll in the Law School Operating System. Be sure to use code LSOSNATE10 at checkout for 10% off the recorded course. That is code LSOSNATE10 at checkout. People of the world, your host for today and forever, Nate Crespo, and this is my episode with Robert Hanna.
Nate, well, thank you so much for your kind words. It's a real pleasure to be here. Love your energy. Love what you're doing with your community and your show. And yeah, I'm just passionate about the world of podcasting and legal and bringing the worlds together to try and educate, inform, and inspire some people.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, Robert, you are the OG of the Love podcast here. I mean, you've been doing it for 2019. So to have someone so honorable here, a man who has been a pioneer of the legal podcast, it's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure. But before we get started, Robert, can tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I help lawyers transform their careers by securing their dream jobs, in short. So I do that based in the UK, principally for firms in and around London, but we also do support law firms across the globe, so in the US, and I'm excited to be in the US soon for ClioCon, which is the world's largest legal technology conference, which is in Austin, Texas. And underneath that company, I host, as you very kindly mentioned, the Legally Speaking podcast, which was born in 2019, which is sponsored by Clio, now the world's largest cloud-based legal technology company with a $3 billion valuation. It's a flourishing partnership, amazing organization, and we have a lot of synergies. Their mission is to transform the legal experience for all, and ours is to provide people access to the best legal careers information and to provide a thriving, more collaborative, fun legal community. So we produce a lot of content with that vehicle. And then you very kindly mentioned the Great Big Legal Offsite. Through my Legal Speaking podcast, we've now moved into events. So we're bringing that community online, offline, and bringing people together to do sort of practical, tactical events, which focuses on the future of law and, of course, cuts across legal technology and AI. So, and I also sit on the board of a couple of legal tech businesses. One principally is Case Guru, which is an AI first led legal tech business, which is trying to help people find an attorney or a lawyer simply. Really innovative, smart business. We want to be the Uber for lawyers. And yeah, other than that, I'm a dad. I love my sports. I love being active, getting out there, having fun, and just recognizing that we're only here once and we've got to go out there and get busy.
Absolutely, absolutely. I am more than excited to have you here today. Of course, like I said, and I will continue to say for the rest of my life. But let's go all the way back. It was a wonderful year. It was well, maybe not a wonderful year for a lot of people in 2008, but
Yeah.
you were at the University of Leeds, of course, home of Leeds United. See, I know all these things. I watched a lot of English Premier League in my life, even the Championship. I love Sunderland. See, I could say that live on the podcast too. But you had graduated from the University of Leeds with a degree in business management. You then went on to become a recruitment consultant at SThree. You were there for 2 years, and then the recruitment director at Bramwith Consulting. And then after working there in 2016, you would found and be the managing director of KC Partners. So can you sort of bring me through that journey, how you got to KC Partners, why you decided to start something like that in such a sort of distinct industry as the legal industry? Because I'm not sure if SThree or Bramwith Consulting is a part of the legal industry itself, but I'll let you explain.
Yeah, no, great question. Before I do that, we had David Jones from Sky Sports. If you watch a lot of Premier League football, and he's a Sunderland fan, and he came on our League Speaking podcast. So there you go, David Jones, one of the best football presenters for the Premier League over here. But on the journey, yeah, so you're absolutely correct. So 2008, I finished at Leeds University. I then wanted to move to London. I wanted to be the first in my family to work in the square mile, which we call it here in London, which is the sort of city of London, which houses the main professional services, financial services, legal services, insurance services hub. So I did that. But I joined at the worst time. It was the Lehman Brothers crash. It was one of the hardest recessions. And as a result of that, I got a role with the SThree Group, which is a FTSE 250 business, which is substantial over here. And it was one of the best experiences because it was such a tough market. I knew I was working in energy and financial recruitment at the time. And obviously with the financial crash, it wasn't a lot of work to be doing, but the best survived. And actually it kind of had a good experience in terms of teaching you resilience, creativity, thinking on your feet, how to make things happen when the markets are against you, so adversity. And so I was there for 2 years, and then my boss at the time left, and he went to Bramwith Consulting, and he tapped me on the shoulder and sort of said, "Hey, do you fancy coming across and joining a boutique?" And so I got headhunted. I went across over to there, and I joined that business. We were a small business at the time. It was a basement office, limited window, daylights. It was kind of scrappy, but it was a great place to work. And the founder of that business is someone I still respect today, one of the best recruiters and managers of people and closing deals and really kind of understanding the power of building a recruitment business and doing well at it. So I helped scale that business to sort of 30 odd, and kind of had successful multi-million generating teams of salespeople. And I thought, wow, this is great. But I need a purpose in my lead. I need a purpose. So I got to director level. I was one of the youngest recruitment directors in the UK at the time. I was earning good money, and this was all great, but I needed a purpose. And I thought, I can keep going along doing this, or I could do something that's going to be meaningful, impactful, and give me a legacy. And so I wanted to utilize the skills and experience that I'd built from these previous experiences within business, recruitment, consulting, but bring it back to something that'd be purposeful and meaningful for me. So my grandfather ran his own law firm. And it was one of the most successful law firms of his generation in the 1950s here in the UK. So I thought, wow, why don't I transfer what I know, but build something for myself? So yes, I can keep the profits, but I can do good with the profits as well. And I can do something that's meaningful, impactful, and hold me accountable and have a legacy that is traceable. Because if you'll let me just tell this quick story, it's really my North Star and my passion for what I do. There was one Christmas time over here in the UK. I went to my grandfather's house. I'd go in and I'd see a number of Christmas cards stacked up on the side all around the house. And I would say to my grandfather, wow, you've got a lot of Christmas cards. And by the way, he'd been retired by about 5 or 10 years at this point. And I said, who are they all from? You don't have that many friends. He laughed and said, no, I don't have that many friends. I said, so who are they from? He says, they're from former clients and generations beneath them's clients and generations beneath their clients, writing to me, updating me on the work that me and my law firm had did for them, the value that we had given, the help that we'd have been able to provide them through practicing the law, and actually how that's benefited their families. And they want to update me and tell me when their children have got married, when people have been brought into the world. And I thought, wow, that was my light bulb moment. That was when I realized he had built a fabulous business, reputation, values. There's a big saying called live respected, die regretted. And he absolutely was that. And so that really gave me the spark and the motivation to think, well, why don't I try and emulate what he did and create a legacy? But he did this in an offline world. There was no Zoom, no social media, none of that. It was very much reputation based, word of mouth, get out there and make it happen. Whereas I thought, well, why don't I switch to digital and have a fairly innovative strategy when I set up my legal recruiting business? It's going to give me a point of difference, right? And utilize LinkedIn, and I'm a LinkedIn top voice, and that's great. And I've leveraged the world's biggest professional networking site. I've understood the importance of social media, understood the importance of being modern, meeting the next generation of legal talent where they're hiding out, which is TikTok, which is Instagram, which is on YouTube, which is on Twitch, which all these sort of things. And so I really understood the importance of, finding a modern way and strategy of connecting with an audience, but also is traceable. So when my daughter one day maybe wants to go and look online, she can see all the good work that I did. Because unfortunately, my grandfather has passed, all of his contacts, relationships. So really, there isn't anything for me to go off now. So I want to build this legacy, be known for doing good, building a legal community that's kinder, more thriving, happier, through education, entertainment, inspiration around technology that's happening, around careers advice and all of that good stuff. So that's kind of my why and what gets me up and gets me excited, and why I wanted to launch KC Partners. And then I launched the podcast, the Legal Speaking Podcast, because I needed a business development and thought leadership tool to stand out, which was linked to legal careers, which means then I can help people looking for a job, because we don't place somebody once, we place them for life. So a great way to keep in touch with people is through content communication. So we'd make sure that we place them and be like, hey, don't just speak to us in 5 years when you're looking again. Here's some really valuable resources so we can educate and inform and build authentic relationships, because we're no longer in this B2B or B2C world. We're in this H to H. It's human to human connection. And the more you can build a connection with your audience and the people you serve and become more client focused and centered, the more successful you'll be.
I mean, first, I just have to say, tremendous story with the grandfather there, that light bulb moment. I mean, that's one of those moments that you remember for the rest of your life. And another amazing thing about content on the internet, your digital footprint, as long as the internet doesn't die, it is there forever. The content is forever. So just like you said, your daughter can come back one day and see all the amazing podcasts that you've made, all the amazing events that you put on, because it's all on the internet. It will be there forever, and it will never, ever leave, as well as leaving your clients with great resources to go back on if they ever need anything in terms of podcasts or information or resources or anything. That it is there forever. And that's why the beautiful internet is just so beautiful. But in terms of doing KC Partners, founding KC Partners, as you call it, it is not your average legal recruitment firm, because it is very tech forward, it is very digital forward. And in doing that, I have to ask, was there any sort of, I guess, benchmarks or demarcations that you could tell that, okay, everything is moving in this certain way, the digital age is upon us, so why did you feel the need to sort of jump on that opportunity and to feel that, okay, this is the way things are going and I'm going to act on it?
Yeah, look, it's I've always got a growth mindset. So you've always got to be looking at, not what if, but what is. And so many companies look at ROI, return on investment. They don't look at COI, which is cost of inaction. So there'd have been a huge cost to me of inaction, of not actually working on launching a podcast. Like, we wouldn't be here today, and I wouldn't be sponsored by the world's largest legal technology company and, interviewing billion-dollar CEOs and have a seat at the table and moderating these events and being flown around the world to do media and all this. And that's great, but there is a value and a purpose and a connection behind that. And it's important that, I get that across, that I want to offer value to people. But this wouldn't have happened if I'd have focused on an ROI straight away. It's COI, cost of inaction. So I thought, what is an activity that I could do that's going to get me noticed, that's going to deliver thought leadership, that's going to make me stand out? And podcasting worked well. And I talk a lot in my content around a WAV strategy. You've got written, audio, and video. So when you're thinking about content, like, where are you strongest? I'm not a very good writer. Lawyers are great at writing. That's their craft, the W. I've been in the recruiting world, interviewing people, speaking over the phone, way back when phone calls were a thing, consulting people, asking questions. So, and this is before video, right? So audio is my medium. I was like, well, podcasting is about to have an upward tick, a hockey stick trend in 2019. It was still quite early. We're planning it in 2018. So why don't I play to my strengths of like interviewing people about their jobs and their careers? I can interview people about what motivates them, inspires them, gets them up, get their wisdoms, get their lessons, get their learns, and market that out and build thought leadership. And that was really the strategy at the time, and how from there it's kind of snowballed. So I would say I definitely have a growth mindset. I think about sort of, is there a cost of me not acting now? Like there is a cost to so many businesses right now not looking at AI. There is a cost to so many businesses not actually being curious about that, how you can implement policies, processes, et cetera, around that. So, I always think if you lead with that mindset, then you'll never be left behind. And I feel like once the Piers Linney, who is a former Dragon's Den investor, he's been on my show, which is the equivalent of Shark Tank over in the US. He's one of those sharks, and he talks a lot about the value pyramid in professional services delivering. Okay, so it's not just legal services, could be financial services, insurance services. If you think of a value pyramid of the way people offer their value, this is being filled with technology. The lower base of the pyramid is being filled with technology through AI, through tech, et cetera, et cetera. So what you have to do as a service provider, doesn't matter if you're a doctor, lawyer, you name it, you need to move up this value pyramid in terms of the value you're giving to be relevant and to still have something of substance today. So that might be getting more client-centered, close to your client, whatever it is, enhancing that human experience. I talked about human-to-human connection. So it's really important that when you're living in a world that we're living today, that you stay curious, you stay open-minded, you don't shut off doors, and you actually think about how you can continue to develop, because we're in a world now where what we knew last week is potentially out of date in next week's time. So you've really got to be kind of keeping yourself active, finger on the pulse, and just forever curious. And that's always been my way.
Of course, of course. I mean, I have to agree with that on all counts. Innovating at every single moment of time is just so important. You don't want to be left behind. There's been many, many companies in the history of the world that have been left behind because they stopped innovating. They focus on many things. I know, a lot of times, especially in the early 2000s, a lot with the internet, a lot of people weren't exactly innovating. They're just kind of staying in one spot, but there were many few companies who were looking towards the future, seeing that. I mean, if you think about Google with search engines, I mean, they went all in with that stuff, and it paid off very handsomely. But now with the advent of AI, what's going to happen with the search engines now? Well, they still exist. So now it's a totally new world. And like you said, information that you knew last week could probably be wrong this week, and there's a new answer out there. And of course, as we love talking about the growth mindset on this podcast, there was a point in time where I'm like, hey, maybe I should just name this podcast the Growth Mindset Podcast for the amount of time that we just talk about it. So can you talk about how important having that growth mindset is for pretty much anyone out there?
It's not just important for you to have a growth mindset if that's important to you. It's important that you have the people around you have the growth mindset. And what I mean by that is the importance of having your own board of directors and mentors. Because you can only consume so much information if you're in a job within the four walls with the people, or you can only consume information from people that are in your immediate circle. So it's important that the circle of people you have around you share a growth mindset, because you don't want to kind of fall into the trap of thinking you know everything, or fall into the trap of actually not developing and learning new things. So I'm a big advocate for having mentors around you who have been there, probably got more experience than you, maybe made mistakes that they can pass on their lessons and learnings to you. So I really advocate, as part of a growth mindset, is really think about the people you want around you, the information you're consuming, and have good people that lift you up, that challenge you. You've got radiators and drains. You want to have people that radiate your energy, not drain your energy, and really bring out the best in you. So it's something that I've worked really hard on, particularly in the online world. And by the way, you can have an online mentor. You can have an informal mentor. They don't need to be sit down hour sessions here, there, and the others. It could be people that just pick you up with a WhatsApp voice note once every couple of weeks, just say, just checking in, how you're getting on with implementing that and holding you to account and being an accountability. And guess what? Now you can even use AI voice, ChatGPT's latest thing. You can actually talk to ChatGPT. It can get you to coach you, mentor you, help you. Like, this is the future. So yeah, I'm just a big advocate of making sure that you have mentors who are utilizing tools that can foster that becoming a habit of having a growth mindset, rather than just saying, hey, I've got a growth mindset. Like, habits become behaviors that then become action.
Absolutely. Thousands of years ago, one of my favorite philosophers, Aristotle, talked about how important having habits are, being able to use catharsis to your advantage, to continually do things, build those habits, and they become ingrained in your system. They become the character traits that lead you towards your actions and the way that you act on certain things. And many times in my life and many times in all the books that I've ever read, one of the most important things is usually the result of your life just comes down to the things that you do in your day and the people that you have around you. And that's why mentors is so important. And of course, to your point, having online mentors as well is another possibility in this new digital age, that you could have a mentor, either that be a lawyer, and those people, as I found out very much that doing this entire podcast, and as you probably know very well, that those people are more than willing to help you in any way, shape, or form. They actually want to help you. They want people to reach out to them, to give them that mentorship, to give them that guidance in order to figure it out. But let's talk about the Legally Speaking podcast, the top 1% ranked podcast show on the planet, and the number one ranked law podcast on the planet. You're the king of the legal world, of the legal podcasting world, Robert Hanna. So why did you decide to start the podcast in the first place, as you were providing value and knowledge about the legal industry? And you've had some guests, just to name a few. You had two former guests of mine, probably a little bit more, but Laura Frederick, she was on my podcast. MC Sangalier was actually just on my podcast the other day. You also had Matt Margolis, Chad Abowd, Cleo's own Jack Newton, Piers Linney from Dragon's Den. You have Lubna Shuga, who was I believe she was the president of the Legal Association in London, as well as Carl Baskin of Tiger King, which is just absolutely amazing. So why start the podcast in the first place?
Yeah, no, and it's crazy to think the journey we've been on since 2019. I kind of alluded to it before. I needed a strategy when I set up my legal recruiting business. I mentioned I wanted to have a purpose, a mission that led to a legacy, and so podcasting is a great way to do that, because podcasts have a long tail, right? So you can do one podcast and then you can turn that into lots of different forms of content. You can put that into video clips, you can put that into newsletters, you can put that into articles, you can put that into static graphic quotations. You can do so many different things with it. So it gives you a chance to then use content to build thought leadership, to stand out and create a legacy, right? For being known for that. So that was the first point. I needed to do something that was going to allow me to kind of align with that mission and vision. And then the second thing is from a business development strategy point of view. So I didn't want to start my company and be like, hey, go to a lawyer, a partner in a law firm, and say, hey, can I recruit for you? Because when I'm teaching people about networking or getting to build relationships, people always lead with value. Don't lead with, I want this. Let me do this for you, and let's start an authentic relationship. So rather than going to someone saying, hey, can I recruit for you? I need your business. And they already work with 5 or 6 other people, long-lasting relationships. Why didn't I split that and actually put it on its head and change the narrative and write to a partner and say, hi, bear in mind, this was early days, 2019, right? So podcast was like, it was an honor. It was a real prestigious thing to get a podcast invitation back then, because it was for, it was so early, particularly in professional services. I think we were one of the first in the UK to start a legal show. And, I'd write to these people and say, hey, and I'd write strategically. I'd be like, look, I can see your firm is currently releasing articles. I don't believe they're getting the traction that once they were getting in terms of the level of time to research them. This is a pre-AI world, to research, to put that content out, to proofread it, to get the engagement, and actually what I think the time's worth. What I would like to do for you is I've got this new interesting form of medium of podcasting, which, by the way, podcasting, I would just need an hour of your time. This is going to allow you to tell your story, the value, what you're doing. And I'm going to get this out in 5,000 cities around the world, because podcasting is global. As soon as you get up on Spotify, Apple, you'll know this. All of these different platforms, you are getting into the directories of the world. So you're going to someone saying, look, I would love to enable you to tell your personal story. And this is going to be really beneficial for you in terms of helping you build a personal brand, which is on the rise at this time again in 2019. This is going to be helpful for you in terms of attracting new clients and actually marketing this out with the social media assets we're going to create, which is going to shine a light on you and make you as a subject matter expert. And this is also going to help you from a talent attraction and retention point of view. Not me mentioning at this point, by the way, that I do the talent attraction and retention. This is just leading with value. I'm just leading with value to start with. I'm not selling yet. This is really important. And so what I'm saying to them is, look, this is going to help you because people are going to want to learn more about you. You're going to want to work for you when you tell your story. Also, people who are currently working for you maybe going to learn about your lessons, your struggles, bring out that authentic voice. People are craving human-to-human connection, H2H. I've talked about that. It's going to be a really good use of your time, and I'll do all this, and I'll create blogs for you, newsletters for you, all of this. Would you be interested in doing that? And of course, most of them would say yes, because it's exciting, new, interesting, innovative, and different. And then you bring them on the show, you give them a great interview, you gave them a great experience, you send them a thank you note, you send them a personalized little gift saying thank you for being a great guest, and you share them all this, and this. And then they say, oh, hey, Rob, I noticed you also do legal recruiting. Yeah, oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yeah, if you ever need a hand for that, give me a call, right? So that's kind of how it works. It was a business development strategy. I'd go out there, just give nothing but value to people, organically build a relationship. And then when they need me, they'd know that what my services were. And eventually I would connect through that way.
I mean, I have to say that was like one of the most incredible descriptions of how valuable a podcast can be for business development, just in terms of leading with that value. And like you said, it is a global thing. I actually looked the other day. I've never looked before at like all the places that people watch my podcast or listen to my podcast. I got people in Australia, I got people in Italy, I got people in Romania, I got people in Spain, I got people in Africa. So it was crazy to see, honestly. I'm like, oh my God, like these people, I'm touching base with them. They know who I am, which is just, it's crazy to me. But in terms of value, talking about value, can you just talk a little bit of how important it is to provide value, but what you would describe in your own words of what value is?
Yeah, look, value is a very overused term as well, right? Because it can be subjective. What's valuable to you might be not valuable to me, and vice versa. So for me, value is understanding the person's or the businesses that you're trying to speak to, what is most important to them. Okay, and this is from my very first days of learning about recruitment consultancy. The way you're going to derive value is by asking the right questions. The better you are asking good quality questions, the better the information you're going to ascertain. We live in the data economy, the data world. Data is the new gold. The better the information or data that you can acquire through asking the right questions or asking the right surveys, doing the right things, the far better value you're going to be able to provide. Because if you're just second guessing, or you're not really understanding, you might think something's super valuable and I'm pitching it to you, and actually, it's not at all valuable to you. And it could be this, and this, whatever it might be. And it could be because you're conflicted. Maybe it's because you've got a personal distaste to whatever that might be. So I feel like the art of delivering value is understanding the right questions to ask. It's like, yeah, you can get away with not using a lawyer, right? If you go through a legal process, I wouldn't recommend that. Why would you hire a lawyer? That you don't hire a lawyer to tell you about the law. You ask a lawyer because a lawyer knows the right questions to ask to tell you the right things to implement about using the law. And that's the difference. So if you can get good throughout your life about being curious, growth, open mindset, asking the right questions to get the good quality information, the better value you can provide to people.
Yes, asking the right questions is so, so important. Just even outside sort of a business perspective, just on a personal perspective, like you continue to talk about, the human-to-human connection, when you're looking for those mentors, asking those mentors the right question is just as important. Because as I found that, and as many people know, a lot of these lawyers have very, very limited amount of time. They only have so much time in the world. So if you could get on a 15-minute call and deliver them an hour worth of value just in terms of questions and getting information, it will be so much worth your while. It will be worth their while, and everyone's time is being used. You're getting that ROI, like we talked about before, in terms of just having those small conversations and being able to get the information that you need as quickly as humanly possible. But let's move to the Legally Speaking Club. You are the co-founder and chief community officer. So what is the Legally Speaking Club, and why did you decide to start it in the first place?
Yeah, so again, I partner with my friend Henry Nelson Clace, who's at that corporate lawyer, great chap, and we were kind of thinking, look, maybe we've got these huge communities between the two of us. We're doing some quite interesting work. Wouldn't it be fun for us to start a company together and do something connected to our values? And so we thought, yeah. So we started kind of thinking about doing short form video. And as I say, you should go and check Henry out on TikTok. I think he's 100K followers. He's been on the various programs, does some really good work. And we started doing short form video. I thought that'd be valuable for law firms. Because again, this was at a time when short form video was blowing up. Like podcasting was early. Think about offering value to that. And then we thought that's great. Units of 6 into clips, I think was like our tagline or something like that. And then we thought, well, maybe now, and what we're working on is moving it even more to events, like legal events, because I talked about the Great Big Legal Offsite, which is a dedicated separate platform. But I'm a big advocate of bringing events back and bringing that connection, because we're so heavily focused focused online, actually bringing in experimental events. And these are events for people in the legal industry. So maybe you've got a hidden talent. Think of it as like X Factor for talent for the legal world. So maybe you play the guitar, maybe you're a comedian, maybe you're an artist. And we want to encourage people to bring their full self to work. Again, not just hide the fact they've got this side hustle or whatever you want to call it on the side. So we want to create experimental, interesting, fun events for the legal community to help build community. And so that's where we felt like the Legal Speaking Club could complement my Legal Speaking podcast and brands and Henry's community. And so that's some of the stuff that we're getting up to there. And it's really good fun. I just want to be doing fun things. And I just want to talk about, when you're going to do these things, certain things are going to work and certain things aren't going to work, and it's okay. And you talked before about, mentors and getting the right information. It's so important that you take self-accountability for things. Like, as impressive or not as impressive as this podcast and things that happen today, I've made so many mistakes. And I've had so many lessons along the way. But if it's meant to be, it's up to me. It's like one of my favorite quotes of all time. And I feel like if you can really understand that actually when you try new things, things are going to break, things are going to go wrong, things are going to go in the wrong direction. And similarly with Legally Speaking Club, we've been taking our time, we're going in the right direction of travel, but we're making mistakes along the way. That's fine. As long as you learn from them. And so it's really, really important that another favorite quote of mine as well, the magic you're looking for is in the work that you're avoiding. I think if you can take on that feedback, if you can take on the fact that maybe there's certain things you need to do and you can go and actually go out there and do it, the magic will eventually start happening.
Yeah, I believe I heard that latter quote on the Chris Williamson show. He had said that. I was like, wow, that is so amazing. Because then
it's so true, isn't it? It just hits.
I was like, what am I avoiding right now? And then I went to work. I was like on my computer. I was like, all right, now I got to figure out what I got to do. But in terms of showing off your authentic self, I think that's so important because as much as these people are lawyers and that's what they do in their life, they have different hobbies. They have different things that they like to do. And it's so important to shine light on those things. I love doing it myself, shining light on the little things that people like to do, the hobbies that they have, because most people are very interesting people. They have very interesting things that they do in their day. They may just not have the opportunity to say it. And that's where the podcast medium comes in to allow them to talk about themselves, to allow them to sort of divulge in the sort of interests that they have, sort of place this caricature in people's heads that, okay, this person is more than a lawyer. He's a person that also sings or he does comedy or plays the guitar, whatever it may be. So I think it's just wonderful that you're doing those things, as well as how important it is to fail and make mistakes. One of my favorite books ever, The Lean Startup. As much as it's about startups, it's also about your life and the personal startup of yourself, which is also another book that exists. But it's build, measure, learn. It's build those things. You measure out what you have to do and you learn from those mistakes. And then you keep going and keep going. But it's just so important to continue to act, continue to be action oriented, just continue to do things because that's the only way to find things out. So I think it's wonderful what you're doing there. Now, you are also a board advisor at Case Guru. You've been doing that since 2024, last year. So can you talk about that? Talk about Case Guru and how it's been so far being a board advisor.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about Case Guru. So Case Guru is a AI first legal tech business. But what are we trying to do? Ultimately, we're trying to create an Uber for lawyers. Now that might seem a little bit scary for people, but we want to create a marketplace where most people, when they want to find an attorney or a lawyer, they'll ask their friends, they'll ask their family, and then they'll go to Google. And then they'll run out of ideas. And actually, what we're doing is we're trying to put the value and the power in the B2C, so that end consumer. So they can go to Case Guru, they can write in what their case is. Maybe they're going through a divorce. Maybe they don't want a will. Maybe they want to buy a house. And the AI will prompt and ask questions. And it will get a good quality summary after asking those questions of inputting that information. That information then, through the AI, is then sent to the back end of Case Guru. On the back end are a lot of pre-vetted, verified lawyers who have put in their rates, put in their specialisms, put in their areas of work. And so what happens is people are then fed leads. Lawyers are then fed leads through Case Guru, and people who are submitting their cases in a summary, verifiable form, which then shortcuts the need for an initial consultation with a lawyer, saving time, access to justice being more affordable as well, because it's a free service for clients to use to get access to these lawyers. The lawyers are happy because they've got a summary, so they can make a judgment on whether or not they want to take on that case or bid for that case. And it just completely makes the system so much quicker, so much faster, so much more efficient. So that's kind of what we're working on with Case Guru. We think it's going to be the future place where people are going to input their cases, and we're going to connect them with lawyers within seconds. We're also bringing in some AI voice features connected to it, and a whole host of different things. But it's going to be the future marketplace for legal.
I believe that I mean, Robert, you sufficiently convinced me that it definitely.
Good.
It's
Well, that's the passion you need, right? Passion is everything. Like, you're passionate about your podcast. You know, we had a great chat offline before going on air. Like, there's real passion there. The people I like to have around me, my mentors, the people I like, unless if you're not passionate or if you don't believe you can't achieve, like, you've really got to be passionate about what you do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. A lot of the times you need that passion, so you push you over the edge, push you over the line, that finish line, because in many moments when you're building something like a podcast, at first it is very abstract before you actually do it. And then when you get to do it, you're like, oh my God, sometimes it's a big undertaking. I know it very well. You know it very well that sometimes it could be overwhelming at times, like, oh my God, I got all these episodes. I got to reach out to all these people. But when you have that passion, you're like, okay, I know I could do it. You got that self-belief, and you can make those things that were just abstract things in your head and bring them into reality. It's a beautiful thing. But finally, you are the co-founder of the Great Big Legal Offsite, a very large event. You have keynote speeches. It's a landmark conference and event that you're looking to have annually. So can you talk about that? Because I'm excited to hear about it.
Yeah, and look, we're talking about the human to human side. So this is a story. I moved to the Northwest. A lot of my time, I spent my career in my businesses within London, which a lot of your listeners will obviously know. I actually now live in the north of the UK, near Manchester, for people who may be a little bit versed with the UK cities. Not, yeah, but more towards the coast. Anyway, there was a personal reason for that. And that was I have a young daughter, and I wanted to give her access to family here and have a good quality of life and all of that good stuff. So where's the story going? I thought, well, I've been doing so much big city work. I've been doing a lot of work with big corporates in the big cities, doing all the big deals, and that's great. But again, remember, I'm coming from life, from purpose, value, legacy, things that I could do. And I thought, I think there's a real underserved community in the north and the surrounding areas outside of London in terms of quality legal events. And so I thought, well, maybe I could partner with local businesses or actually help local legal service providing businesses here, and maybe something we could do quite cool. And it just so happens where my house is currently, I live near a big sort of adventure center. It's almost like a center parks. If you're familiar with center parks, it's like a big, fun, crazy area. But there's a place, it's like a spa hotel. You can also put on events there. And there's a friend of mine called Kate who runs a compliance for law firms business there called Hive Risk. And most mornings I'd walk my dog around the area, and I thought, wow, it'd be fun to do an event here. And I know Kate does this. Maybe we could collaborate together, and maybe we could kind of build community and actually put on an event that's going to be valuable for a lot of the law firms and lawyers around the Northwest and across the regions that's targeted to them. And then was born the Great Big Legal Offsite. And we kind of branched it on the benchmarked on the Great British Break Off, which a lot of people may watch, which is a good fun show over here. And we made it intentional as having a bit of fun with the name. But the premise was we wanted to provide digestible, easy access content focusing on the future of law, because again, so many small to mid-sized law firms struggle to keep pace with a lot of the technological advancements and things going on. So we want to put a conference on that's actually going to provide practical, tactical, insightful sessions cutting across the future of law. And so, next year we're going to be super excited about putting on some fun content around what does the future law firm look like? Because, you typically would have paralegals, lawyers, legal technology coming in, project managers, process managers, innovation centers, your future law firm or your demographic of law firms can look different. So we're going to be talking a lot about that, AI agents, all these exciting things. So yeah, we put on the Great Big Legal Offsite, and we had number one rule of that as well as make sure it was fun. So we had like a big spray painting wall where people could like spray paint their name. We had like some cool like inflatables. We had ice cream parlors there. We made it a good fun experience as well, because going to conferences can be very boring. So you've got to bring out the fun and make sure the content's good enough, and then bring out networking opportunities, chance to collaborate. And yeah, we've got some really exciting plans for our next one, and I just can't wait.
Well, I can't wait to see how it unfolds. I'm very excited about it. I'm very excited for you. And of course, how important those network and mentorship opportunities that you're giving to people, that is just value in itself, no matter what, no matter which way you look at it, it will always be valuable. So I'd love to hear all of that. But one last thing I'd like to talk about here is you're obviously very tech forward, and you love Web3, you love Bitcoin, Ethereum, the blockchain, and integrating into the law. I'm interested, what you mean by integrated into law. I've known about myself personally. I've known about blockchain technology for a very long time now. I wish I put money in it when I did see. I think I think the lowest I ever saw, I think I saw Bitcoin at around like $7,000 or $10,000. So it's been a very long time. I was also like 13 years old, so it was a little different. But can you talk about how you'll be integrating that with the law? I'm very interested on this perspective here.
Yeah, and look, there's a cost in action there, isn't there? That's an example of a cost in action, which is, exactly. So I have a Discord community, which you'll probably be very familiar with the Discord platform. Some of the older listeners may be less familiar with Discord, but it's a very Web3 world in Discord. And so, we've done some fun things with the Legally Speaking podcast when NFTs were, non-fungible tokens, which for people to simplify it is a one of one. It cannot be replicated in theory. So what we've done with the podcast is when we had Carol Baskin come onto the show, we ran an NFT, a gated community. So using like decent Web3 technology through our Discord, we would have a gated access where people would apply to be part of this competition where you'd actually get a chance to ask Carol Baskin 3 questions and actually meet her face to face. This was at the height of Tiger King. So, we've done some sort of cool, fun things linked to the show. Again, entertainment, education, inspiration. So making sure you're getting all 3, because Carol was actually talking about big cat laws and preserving them within the US and things to do. So there's some value there. But yeah, so we did token gated NFT events on our Discord community, which is just one example. We also did some fun sort of just Web3 educational purposes. So I speak to a lot of Web3 lawyers. Again, Web3 is just an upgrade of the internet if you want to simplify things very, very simply. Most of social media and everything else was Web2. And that was the birth of that. And then we obviously had Web3, read, write, engage, and all the other good stuff that goes with it. So I'm also on platforms like Entra, which is a future of work platform, which is very much around Web3 startups. And there's a legal community forming there. So I host online sessions and bring people together. I think the way you've got to look at this is growth mindset, curious, being forward, trying things out. Okay. It's what I've always been about, trying, and always trying to push forwards. Because like you said, you've got to continuously innovate. So these are some of the things that I've been getting up to in terms of experimenting with, interesting new things, to be modern, to be different. And I'm excited for the future of legal services. I'm excited for what it means in an AI revolution. It's not even an AI revolution. So Piers Linney, the Dragon's Den investor, he said AI is not a once in a revolution opportunity. He said it's a once in a species opportunity. And you actually think about the speed of change and the things that are happening. And if you follow the Sam Altmans and you follow all of the, the NVIDIA CEO, et cetera, like some of the innovations that are happening are crazy, mind blowing. And the thing is, you don't necessarily need to be an expert, but you need to make sure that you're staying curious and you're learning and you're observing what's going on. So then you can make sure that you're fit for purpose, for business, and for just generally modern living. It's going to be exciting. Like my 2.5-year-old daughter will never drive a car. They'll be fully automated. That is the world that we're in, and that's just like, it's mind blowing for like a late grandfather might to compute that, but that's the way the world is going.
It absolutely is, and like you said before, when you were talking about starting the podcast in 2019, you said it was a pre-AI era, and that was only 5 years ago, and so much has happened. So much has happened in 5 years. So much has happened in like 2 months in terms of the rapid rate that AI is innovating. One of the big things that I love looking into, what I found to find enjoyable, is Neuralink. Is another one of the AI things. It is just incredible. One of the craziest parts of it all is that the way that they put the chip in someone's brain is actually an AI robot. It's actually a robot, so it's not a person doing it, and it's completely AI. It's completely an LLM who's doing the service of putting. There's so much more to it, but the way that it works, everything like that, like it is, and they are constantly innovating, constantly improving the product. So, like that stuff just blows me. I'm like, oh my God, like it's beyond human capacity sometimes. But I love learning about it, and I love the way that the future is looking now with AI and all of tech. But speaking of tech, Robert, we're now down to our last 5 questions. The first of the 5 questions is something you've talked heavily about and something I've seen throughout my entire journey doing this podcast, is that the legal industry is moving in a certain way, just like you've been saying, new AI technologies, new software technologies. So this is the tech stack question per se. What does your tech stack look like, and what recommendations do you have for people out there?
Yeah, sure. I would use Opus Clips if you want to start a podcast. It's a great way for generating clips. It's really simple. I think if you're genuinely looking to try and get cases, I would recommend Case Guru. I think it's a great AI platform for lawyers. If you want to keep things simple, you can use Riverside FM. That's a really cool recording platform for podcasts that then create magic clips, and they've got magic audio AI, so then that can do your own editing for you. So that's a good little bit of tech that you could incorporate into that. I talked about Discord. I use Discord as my legal community platform, building platform, because then you can integrate that with various different plugins. That's super cool. So I would say there would be sort of 3 or 4 things that you can immediately do that are super actionable, tactical, and really helpful platforms. But also don't overcomplicate things. Basic things like Slack with integrations is good. Slack with integrations is really quite a simple way to have some quite simple technology work for you. Record everything. Use Otter.ai to transcribe your Zoom meetings, or Fireflies, one of those two. They're really good, taking notes and really helping you with all of that good stuff. And there's a new one that I'm thinking about, which is like called Brave, I think, which is basically can automate all of your social media, all of your calendars, take everything together and do everything for you. So that's going to be quite interesting to see how that one pans out. And then Sintra AI, which does have some concerns. That's where you can basically create your own AI business developer. You can create your AI marketing. You can create your own AI workforce, basically, and have your own AI agents. So that's super exciting to see.
That's incredible. I'm gonna have to look into that after the podcast here. And I have this Taken Opus Clips. Amazing product. I pay my $9 a month for more of those lightning bolts. I don't know what they even are. I think they're just like charges. But I love it very much. It supports me very much. It's so easy to make clips, and you could edit them any way you want. You could go back and be like, oh, I want to take this part out, maybe clip this part. So I second that so much. But what's the last question here, Robert? Live on the Lawyers in the Making podcast, what are your book recommendations for people? It doesn't have to be about the law, just some of your favorite books you've ever read in your life.
There's one book I would recommend, and it's Jack Newton, CEO of Clio, and it's the Client-Centered Law Firm. And I think because you've got a lot of legal people in around the law, he talks a lot, and I've hopefully talked a lot about, even from questioning, the more closer you can connect with your clients, understand your clients, and become client-centered, the far more successful you'll be. So I'd encourage people to go and check out that book.
Of course. Now, back to the last question here. What are the types of things that you consume, not food, consume on a daily basis, either that be through social media, so Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Reddit, any Substack that you read? I'm probably forgetting a lot of social media apps, but all the TikTok as well. I always forget TikTok. I don't know why. It's just because I don't personally use it all the time, so I always forget about it. Any podcasts that you listen to that you would recommend to people? What is crossing the transom of Robert's mind on a daily basis?
Yeah, look, there's lots of things. Obviously, I get a lot of AI fueled content for resources, but I think Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett, I enjoy listening to some of his guests. He has some quite interesting guests that come on to his show, and has some quite good American people actually from entrepreneurial perspectives that are slightly different to some of the people over here. So that's been quite interesting to listen to. But away from work, I'm a Liverpool fan. I like sort of reading the news, seeing the sports, Sky Sports, things like that. You got to make sure that you also have downtime and fun time. So that's super important. So I follow those channels and get targeted on that. So yeah, I try to make sure I have a balance between, I'm very all in on when I do things in business, but also when I'm not, I want to make sure that I'm having fun, be that with my family, be that with my friends, or with my sports teams that I support.
Of course, big win yesterday against Bologna in the Champions League. Mo Salah had a great goal. McAllister scored as well. So I was happy to see that. I'm not myself a Liverpool fan, but I enjoy watching the beautiful game because they play it very beautifully many times. More often than not, they are the epitome, and Arne Slot's been great. So I see good things in the future for Liverpool, even if Jurgen Klopp left, because I love him. I'm a Jurgen Klopp, but I think Arne Slot's going to do great regardless. Second to the last question here. You're working, you got your podcast, you're doing all these events, you're traveling to Texas next week, but what does an ideal Friday night and Sunday morning look for Robert?
It's a really good question. Friday night with family and friends out. I like playing pool. So I play quite a lot of pool. So probably going out playing some pool. That will be good fun with family and friends, and then maybe going to watch a movie, one that I really, maybe something that I haven't seen for a long time, and then making sure I'm back in time to spend some time with my little daughter, my 2.5-year-old daughter, playing in her little playroom and getting to do bath time and bedtime with her and fun and reading to her, singing to her. That'll be a really fun. And then on a Sunday, I want to get away from all of that and go and play some golf. So I'm getting into golf and want to spend some time playing golf, getting out there, keeping active. Yeah, that'll be fun for me.
Yeah, I myself have been getting into golf. I'm terrible. I'm terrible at the game of golf, but short improvements over time. At least I'm doing it. At least I'm swinging.
1% gains. 1%
Exactly,
gains.
exactly. I'm hitting the ball now, so that's important. I just got to keep my head down, keep my body down. It's the one thing I could just never do. But Robert, last question here. I do this at the end of every single episode with every single guest, but what are your words of wisdom for the aspiring law students, the current law students, the legal professionals, and pretty much anyone else out there?
Niche is no longer good enough. You need to be forensically focused. And there's a famous quote from Bruce Lee, which is, he doesn't fear the man who's practiced 1,000 kicks. He fears the man who's practiced one kick 1,000 times. And so what I'm thinking about now, and as I'm going in through my business and my journey, a lot of what I've described to you is laser focused in the legal world. I've got a legal tech business. I've got a legal headhunting business. I have a legal podcast. I do legal careers content. I've come onto your show. So wherever you want to take your career, be that as a specialist in corporate lawyer, where are you forensically focusing within corporate lawyer? Is it M&A? Is it private equity? Is it a subsection within private equity? So niche is no longer good enough. Be forensically focused and go all in. And remember what I said before, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. Take accountability.
Beautifully said, Robert. I would almost say poetic. But, Robert, that is the episode. That is the podcast. So thank you so much for coming on here, spreading your experiences and spreading your wisdom. And for everyone out there listening, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to check us out, lawyersinthemaking.substack.com, lawyersinthemaking, one word, substack.com. And I will see you all in the next one.